Of this. You might get a little sign coming up saying that the meeting is being streamed. Yeah, I think it has started. Excellent. And finally, I'm going to start my recording. Okay, we've got Pavi who's joined as well. So, Pavi, I was just saying to everyone that today's talk is probably extremely important for women, but important for everyone because today we're talking about how to prevent bone loss. Okay, that's the topic for today. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute everyone, and then we can start. Mute everyone. Great. Yeah, I think we're ready. So this is my most recent blog, How to Prevent Osteoporosis, How to Build Strong Bones. The first question is, why is it important to have strong bones? In fact, let me start that without even the screen share. Why is it important to have strong bones? And I'd say there are at least three good reasons why you need to have strong bones. Number one is good metabolic health. What we know is that metabolic disease, and this could be fatty liver, prediabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, occurs in a genetically predisposed individual. It is also related to age, but one of the central findings is an excess of visceral fat, which is belly fat, and a lack of non-fat tissue. Non-fat tissue, also called lean tissue, includes both muscle and bone. Now, we can't change the genetics, we cannot change the aging processes, but we can change our body composition. We can reduce our belly fat and we can also increase muscle mass and we can increase our bone mass. And so this is how the connection is with metabolic disease and bones. Secondly, bones are really important for quality of life. If you imagine a person in a nursing home needs to go to the bathroom, can't get off his or her chair, needs the help of an assistant to move, rings a bell, is waiting, possibly in a diaper, to go to the bathroom, and another person of the same age is outside trekking, going for hikes. The primary difference between those two individuals is bone strength and muscle strength. So, bone strength and muscle strength is a major determinant of your quality of life. Are you going to be spending the last 10, 15 years of your life in a nursing home, or are you going to be out and about independent? And your muscle and bone strength will determine that. Number three is not just morbidity. Morbidity means quality of life, but also mortality. A lot of people don't realize that after suffering a hip fracture, the death rate at 6 months is about 20 to 30%, i.e., a third of people who break their hip will have died within 6 months. So, this is actually worse than cancer and heart disease. And why is that? Well, number one, a lot of people who fall down and break their hip will be frail and elderly in the first place. And so you're just making a bad situation worse. Secondly, there could often be complications of the fracture. Thirdly, Those frail people will become more immobile, and becoming immobile will then lead to possibly blood clots, pneumonia, pressure ulcers, infections. And so the death rate after a hip fracture is about 30% at 6 months. And so having strong bones is important for your metabolic health. It's important for your quality of life and independence, but it's also important for not dying early of conditions which could have been prevented. And so it's really, really important. One of the most common misinformations or myths I see about bones is that it's all just calcium and vitamin D. And this is something that I'd like to relay today. Calcium and vitamin D is important. However, bone strength is a lot more than that. And so what I've done in today's talk is I'll be talking about the top 5 impactful ways of strengthening your bones, but I have also ranked them in order of number 1 to number 5. And you'll notice that calcium, vitamin D are near the bottom of that ranking. There are so many other things which are more impactful than calcium and vitamin D. And so it's really important. Keep taking your calcium, vitamin D, but you also need to do those more impactful things for bone strength. So let's get to the talk now. This is the blog I've written on my website, healthgroupcoaching.com. Prevent osteoporosis. So in our bones, we have these cells called osteoclasts, which get rid of bone structure. They lead to bone resorption, while we have the opposite as well, osteoblasts, which are responsible for formation of bones. And as we get older with aging, this could be because of hormonal changes, nutritional issues, sedentary lifestyle. There tends to be a imbalance. We get increasing amount of bone resorption and less bone formation. So essentially what we're trying to do when we talk about reversing this is to increase the amount of bone formation, reduce the amount of bone resorption. Like I said, almost everyone I talk to about bones thinks it is all vitamin D and calcium. There are a few concepts you need to understand to really understand what helps with growing bones. One theory you need to understand is the mechanostat theory, which means, to put it very simply, if you don't use it, you lose it. Our bone, our body has a complex system of determining what it needs to do and what it can let go of, because your body is always trying to conserve energy. If your body gets the messages that bones are not important, they don't need to be strong, you're not really loading them, they're not being challenged in any way, then they become weak because your body comes to the conclusion that strong bones are not required. There is also one more principle that you need to be aware of, which I call the weakest link principle. Essentially, if you were to pull on a chain, the chain would eventually break if you pull hard enough. But where it would break would be determined by the weakness of the weakest link. And the same applies to your bones. If you were to fall down and break a bone, it would break at the weakest point. And so, if you want to strengthen your bones from the point of view of not sustaining that fracture, it's not really the average bone density or the bone density at the strongest part of the bone or even your bone density results. which have the biggest impact. What has the biggest impact is strengthening the weakest part of your bone, because that is the weak link. That is what will crack if you sustain a fall, which is hard enough. And so, one of the primary methods of doing that is what we describe as multidirectional plyometric exercises. And why is that? If you were not to do those kinds of exercises, if I said to you, you need to exercise, and your response was, well, doctor, I'll be going for a walk every day. The problem with walking, and I'm not saying there's anything bad with walking, I mean, please do your walking, step counts are important, all that is important, but it's not the best for your bones. And the reason is it applies a uniform, predictable loading pattern to your bones. Certain parts of your bone will predictably become stronger the more you walk, but there will be other parts which will not be affected because you're giving load in just one direction the whole time. And so, what you really want to incorporate within your exercise routine, in addition to walking and resistance training, is other kinds of multi-directional exercises. And that includes things like, as we see here, jumping jacks, skipping rope, playing sports which involve rapid directional changes like tennis, basketball, squash, dancing, like Zumba, for example. These kinds of activities, they provide load to the bones in different directions. You could be moving left 1 second and then you're moving right and then you're moving backwards. And by doing that multiple directional kind of loading on the bone, you are affecting every part. And so you will be more likely to affect the weakest part of your bone than if you were to just do one continuous movement. So let's get to the talk, which is the top 5 strategies to prevent osteoporosis. The first, most scientifically proven, is resistance training, to push weights, to make your muscles stronger. This could be free weights, it could be machine weights, it could be body weight, it could be any kind of weight, it could be resistance bands, but essentially you need to be using your muscles, and that is what strengthens your bones. Strong bones come from strong muscles. This was a study done in 2017 by Beck et al., published in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research, randomized controlled trial, so a high quality study. 8 months. So that's interesting because 8 months is not a very long period of time. In fact, when we repeat bone density results or tests, we never repeat a bone density in 8 months. We would usually wait at least 12 months, if not 5 years, before repeating a bone density. So in 8 months, they had two groups. One did high intensity resistance training, which is 80 to 85% of their 1 rep max. 1 rep max is the maximum weight that you can push or pull for one repetition with good form. And they were lifting about 80% to 85% of that, which is quite a heavy weight. And the other group did low intensity home exercises, and that would typically be things like yoga, Pilates, that kind of stretching. What were the results? Well, the group who did their high intensity resistance training saw a 2.9% improvement in bone density in just 8 months, while the other group doing stretching, they had a reduction in 1.2%. That was at the spine. At the hip level, the group doing resistance training, high intensity, had a 0.3% improvement, while the sedentary group, or rather, we should say, doing the gentle exercises group, had a minus 1.9% reduction in bone density. Any of you who are interested in reading these studies can click on the links. I do put them on my blog. But there is a very important safety principle here, that when you do resistance training, or particularly lifting weights like deadlifts, squats, or rows, if you already have bone disease like osteoporosis, osteopenia, or even suspected of having those conditions, then you should always maintain a straight back position. And this is because the way that soft bones affect the spine is by causing shrinkage, and that's why older people start losing their height, but also causing a bending forward of the spine. This is because of micro fractures or small fractures that a person might not even be aware of happening at the anterior or front end of the bones. And so the bones, the vertebrae, which are like blocks stacked on top of each other, instead of looking like square blocks, they start looking more like triangles or pyramid shaped blocks. And as a result, the entire spine becomes curved forwards. And so next time you see an older person who's shrunk and is bending forwards, that is because that person is suffering from multiple micro fractures in the spine, which have bent the spine forwards. And so, what we don't want to do in a person who is at risk of that is to make it worse by making them lift weights in that forward bent position. So, it's really important that if you lift any weights, do it with a straight back position. Always keep a straight back. So that was the first most important thing, which is resistance training. Let's have a few questions before we move to the second part. Uh, yeah, let's have a few questions, guys. Any questions so far?
So, um, hello, doctor.
Yeah, so
Um,
go ahead.
so, yeah, this bone density test, how we will know how far now, after so many years, I've never done this density test. So let's say now I've already started resistance training with my teacher. So, how I will know where I stand?
That's a really good question. My answer to that would be that the OHIP is not really the right system for you to do that. I mean, some people when they go to gyms, for example, will have DEXA machines there. These will typically be the more expensive gyms. However, what I would say to you is if you are able to lift more weights, if you are able to push or pull more weight, if you have better balance, if you're able to do more, for example, let's say you were able to, if you're able to do more cycling, if you're able to do more jumping jacks and skipping ropes, and if you're now able to confidently play basketball when previously you couldn't, if you see a functional improvement, then you can make a safe presumption that your bone density has improved. There is a very direct correlation between those two things. So you don't necessarily have to measure your bone density. Of course, the other thing
Oh,
is your Renfo scale that you have hopefully bought, the one which gives you your body fat percentage. You can get that scale from Amazon on my biometric tracking blog, and I linked it on the email as well. And simply
okay.
put, it gives you a rough idea of your muscle mass and bone mass as well as fat mass. So you can get an idea from there as well. But if you're above the age of 50 and you've never had a bone density, feel free to just complete the Google form in the email requesting a imaging requisition and ask for a bone density. Even though
Okay.
the government guidance says that bone density screening should start from around age 65, I personally don't agree with that. I feel that's way too late, especially
Okay.
to make any changes or improvements. So I do recommend anyone who's above the age of 50, I'm
Oh,
quite happy to arrange a bone density for you. So if
oh,
you haven't
that will
had
be
one and
great.
you're above the age of 50, just feel free to complete the imaging requisition Google form on the signature of my email, and I will arrange one for you. Yeah,
Oh, thank you, doctor. That will be great.
you're welcome. Joanna has a question as well. Joanna, go ahead.
Mhm. I just wanted to know if you could explain briefly the difference between osteoarthritis and osteoporosis and osteopenia.
Yeah, absolutely. So osteoarthritis and bone disease are two completely opposite things. Osteoarthritis is purely related to your joints. So osteoarthritis is related to wearing down of the cartilage between your joints. And of course, I do have a blog on my website called Age-Related Degenerative Conditions, where I do recommend four supplements that everyone with osteoarthritis should be considering. One is oral hyaluronic acid, 200 milligrams per day. The other is collagen. The third is omega-3, and the fourth is a good multivitamin. So those are the four things everyone should be having. And you can just check out my blog called Age-Related Degenerative Conditions. And I take these supplements myself because these are more preventative than therapeutic. Osteoporosis and osteopenia are essentially bone conditions, and so not joint conditions at all. When you have a bone density test, it is a comparative test. It's a bit like when you have an exam and you're given a percentile that you scored better than 90% of the people. So that's a comparative test. A bone density test is also a comparative test. So if you score zero on a bone density, it means that compared to other people of the same age and gender as you will have average bones. If you score a plus, that means you have better than average bones. If you score minuses, it means it is less good than average. If you score between 0 and -1, that is still considered as normal. If you score between -1 and -2.5, that's called osteopenia, also called borderline osteoporosis. In that situation, you really need to work on lifestyle, nutrition, diet. Sometimes medication would be considered, particularly if you've had a fracture already. And if you have a bone density which scores -2.5 or below, then you would be recommended bone density treatments, so tablets and injections. And that's a topic on its own, which we'll not be covering today. But yeah, that's osteoporosis and osteopenia. Like I said, the recommendation is that it should be screened from age 65, but I'm usually quite happy to screen from 50 onwards. Um, Great, let's move on to the next topic. Oh, Joanne, did you have one more follow-up question?
No, no.
No, okay. So I can see Sneha just joined a bit late, so I'll just tell Sneha that today we're talking about bone density and how to strengthen bones. The top 5 ways of doing this, and the first that we just discussed was resistance training or pushing weights. Pushing weights is the most evidence-based method of strengthening your bones. Now we'll move to number 2. The second most effective way of strengthening your bones is multidirectional plyometric impact loading. So this is things like dancing, Zumba, for example, skipping rope, doing jumping jacks, playing sports like basketball and tennis and squash and badminton. So these are exercises where you're doing multiple changes of direction, and so you're strengthening every part of your bone, not just one part of your bone. So this is a study here, published 2013 in Osteoporosis International, randomized controlled trial, which is a top quality study. They had a control group and they had a active group with did high impact multi-directional exercises. And what did they see? The ones doing high impact multi-directional exercises saw a 1 to 2% improvement in bone density, but there was a decline in the control group. Also in the hips, they saw a increase in bone density, but a decline in the control group. So what is number 3? Number 3 for evidence is actually the nutritional aspects which make up bone, and that is primarily collagen and protein. Now remember, collagen is more specific for the bones because it contains amino acids which are more specific for type 1 and type 2 connective tissue. And this would be hydroxyproline, proline, arginine. And this is a study here published in 2018, double-blinded randomized control trial. So high quality study, 12 months. And they gave collagen peptides to postmenopausal women. And in the group receiving collagen peptides, they saw a 3% improvement in bone density, while a 1.3% reduction in the other group, not getting collagen peptides. And in the hip, they saw a 6.7% improvement versus a 1% reduction in the group not getting collagen peptides. So this is quite a impressive study here for collagen peptides. This is a study looking at the effect of protein supplementation, a randomized controlled trial, 80 participants, 6 to 12 months. It showed that if you're given protein powder, there was a slight increase in certain markers of increased bone turnover, and there was less femoral bone loss. So not as impressive as collagen for the bones, but remember, protein powder is really designed for muscles. It's not really designed for bones. But there was a reduction in bone loss with protein powder. This is another interesting study, protein supplementation after a hip fracture. And so what they did in this study was it was a randomized control trial, 80 to 100 elderly patients in hospital with a hip fracture, 6 months duration. And they gave one group protein powder when they were recovering, and the other group did not receive protein powder. And there was improvement in function, so faster return to function and also earlier discharge in those patients who received protein powder. So let's have a few questions about collagen and protein powder. And then we'll move to number 3, which is micronutrients. In fact, number 4. Any questions about collagen or protein powder at all?
Now, collagen, I also take collagen, but I think collagen are different kinds you find, like peptides are different from just collagen.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. For it to be a collagen peptide, it'll have to come from an animal source. So
oh,
be careful of the so-called vegan collagens because they contain the amino acids. Like the ones here you would need would be proline, hydroxyproline, arginine, but they don't contain the peptides. They're not linked together. So it's not going to be the same level of scientific evidence as the studies. So the one I recommend is the marine collagen. It's
marine.
fish-based collagen because, as you know, I don't like any red meat or cow-based products. So if you just go into Costco and pick up a standard collagen, it'll probably be bovine, which is a cow-based product. But I try to avoid those particularly longer term. So I use a marine collagen. And if you go on my blog for osteoporosis or menopause, you'll find the one that I recommend. Yeah.
So
Um,
we can take this marine collagen. That's the collagen peptide you're talking about.
Marine collagen is the one that I like. Yes, you can get a big packet
Oh, where
from
do?
Costco as well.
Uh,
Costco does
uh,
the same brand that I recommend. I recommend the Organica brand, Marine
organic.
Collagen.
Okay,
You can get it from
okay.
Amazon, but you can also get it from Costco. Costco is actually slightly better because you can get a really big pack, 1 kilogram pack from Costco. I'm drinking collagen right now. This is black coffee. It's
Yeah.
got a scoop of collagen
Huh?
inside. Yeah, yeah. So I
But
have
doctor,
collagen
this
every morning. This is
seafood
black coffee with
derivative, right?
yeah. You can mix collagen with warm hot drinks.
Uh-huh.
You can mix the protein with hot drinks. It has to be with a
Yeah.
smoothie with yogurt or something. But the collagen
Uh,
you can mix with hot drinks. Yes.
okay. But this marine collagen, does it have a kind of sea smell kind?
Not at all.
No,
No,
nothing, not
not at all.
much.
Mhm.
Okay, I was taking this total body collagen, anti-aging, hydrated skin, which has hyaluronic acid, glutamine, and biotin, unflavored. This I bought from Healthy Planet. So I was taking that. So it's about to finish now. So
Does it
maybe
say
then I should
bovine though?
try
Is it
this.
cow-based, the collagen? Just see, it
I
probably says
don't know.
whether it's
The
bovine.
lady recommended me. So it should be in the ingredient, right?
Is it cow-based though? Within brackets, it'll say bovine, porcine, or marine, which means coming from a pig,
Or
coming from a cow, coming from a fish.
here it doesn't say anything. I don't know.
If you look
Maybe
at
in
the
the
small print, it'll
ingredient I
say,
have to read.
it'll tell you, yeah.
So
Porcine?
I don't know.
Anyway, Joanne, I think you
Maybe.
unmuted yourself. You have a
No.
question as well? Oh,
Oh, I tried the fish collagen and it said on on the bottle that it didn't taste anything, but I tasted fish. I didn't like the taste of it.
mm-hmm.
So you say in yours it doesn't taste?
What brand was it though?
Something on your blog. I don't remember.
Okay, there were two on my blog. There was Vitasave and Organica. I think Organica has probably got less taste than the Vitasave. You might have bought the Vitasave possibly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Vitasave is slightly cheaper. Organica is slightly few dollars
Mm.
more expensive, but it's got a Organica's got a better, less of a taste for sure. But I mean, personally, I'm not the best person to judge that because I mix it with black coffee, and black coffee more or less kills the taste anyways. If there is a, I don't know if were you having with water or however you were you having it,
With coffee and milk.
but you still felt the taste despite
Yeah.
of that. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, doctor, it says collagen hydrolyze bovine 10 grams.
yeah, bovine means cow-based. That's
Oh,
cow-based.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. The lady gave me, it's been a while I've been taking. I had no idea. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, you're
I
welcome. On my
wouldn't have
blog, it
bought
is the
it.
Organica one is marine, so you can get the marine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get it.
All
Yeah,
right, let's
thank
go
you.
move on to the next part. Okay. So this is what most people consider to be the most important part for your bones. You know, when you ask anyone about what's the most important thing, well, just make sure you're taking your calcium and vitamin D. But as you saw today, from a scientific evidence point of view, this is at number four. When we talk about the top five, this is at number four. Number one was resistance training. Number two was plyometric exercises. Number three was collagen and protein. And I would put micronutrients like calcium, vitamin D, vitamin K, and magnesium at number four. And the reason I put it at number four is because of the evidence. Let's go to the evidence. This was a study done, randomized control trial, so good quality study, 150 postmenopausal women, 12 months, so good duration there. And what did they find? They found that there was a 1 to 2% improvement with calcium vitamin D versus a 0.5 to 1% reduction in bone density at the spine level. And there was about a 1% improvement in the hips versus a minus 1% loss if not taking calcium vitamin D. So there is benefit, not as profound as the previous studies we saw. I mean, look, that is 1 to 2% improvement. When we compare that to this study with collagen, that was a 3 to 6.7% improvement. That's why the collagen is here higher up in the evidence gradation than this, but there's still some improvement here. Now, of course, remember, we don't have to have a all or none kind of approach. You know, you should do all of these things. I'm not saying that you should just do exercises, do plyometric exercises, take collagen, protein, and forget about these things. No, do these as well. But just bear in mind, this is not the be all and end all when it comes to bone strength. Vitamin D doesn't actually have any really good evidence on its own. Most of its evidence is with calcium, but it does have some evidence for reduction in falls In this study, clients taking vitamin D had a 22% reduction in falls. Magnesium also appears to have a benefit, but this is mostly indirect surrogate improvements where certain bone turnover markers were improved. So, no really strong evidence. With vitamin K as well, bone loss reduced by 1 to 2% in those people taking vitamin K. So, a slowing down of bone loss. So, not very impressive evidence. But again, like I said, it's not like you have to just do the first three things on this blog and not do these things. You can do them all together. You will get some combined benefit. There are two more supplements that I would like people to consider. But the reason that I like you to consider these supplements is not so much because of the benefits they have for your bones, but also because of the other benefits that these supplements have. And those two supplements are soy isoflavones and creatine. Now, soy isoflavones are phytoestrogens. So they mimic in your body some effects of estrogen. And we know that one of the most rapid declines in bone density is when menopausal women stop producing their own estrogen. And that has a profound impact and speeding up of bone loss. This is a study in which soy isoflavones were given to these 97 postmenopausal women, randomized double-blinded placebo-controlled trial, so a good quality study in 12 months. And what they saw was that in the spine, there was a slight improvement similar to calcium vitamin D, about a 1% improvement versus a 1% reduction in bone density in the spine. In the hip, there was no change, but in the control group, there was a 1% reduction in. So it slowed down the reduction. So there was some improvement, but not a huge amount. However, remember, soy isoflavones help with many other things as well. So soy isoflavones also reverse insulin resistance, for example, which is what leads to prediabetes and diabetes. So in this study, done in 2016, 70 women, 35 in each group, randomized double-blinded placebo-controlled trial, so a good quality trial for just 12 weeks. What they found was there was a significant improvement in insulin sensitivity in that group who received soy isoflavones. Their insulin levels came down, HOMA-IR improved, insulin sensitivity markers improved. And so soy isoflavones have decent evidence for the bones. This is as good as calcium and vitamin D, but they also have other benefits, including reversing insulin resistance. And I would make the same case for creatine as well. Creatine, if you remember, is made up of three amino acids, methionine, arginine, and glycine, and it acts as a phosphate donor. So in your body, when you require energy, your mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of your cells, they convert ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, to ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So you lose a phosphate. That's how you produce energy. What creatine does is it donates phosphate molecules to the ADP, converts it back to ATP, which means you have more ATP in your cells. Interestingly, the energy effects are not just for muscle, but also for your brain and other parts of the body. So you just generally have an increase in energy with creatine. Typically, just take 5 grams a day powder and it builds up. You start getting maximal benefits within about 3 weeks of taking creatine. The only downside of creatine is that you will see some increase in scale weight because of more water retention, which is mainly in the muscles because you have more glycogen storage in the muscles, i.e., more energy storage in your muscles. So this is a study done in 2021, 200 adults, randomized controlled trial, 12 months. They did not see any major change in the spine. In the hip, they saw some surrogate changes like possibly improved hip geometry, but no major changes. So that looks a bit disappointing for creatine. However, there has been there have been other trials which showed that when creatine is added to resistance training, there is better muscle growth and better bone growth as well when added to resistance training. But there are other benefits of creatine as well. So, for example, this was a study done in young adults. Again, randomized controlled, double blinded, placebo controlled crossover trials. It is a high quality study. 45 university students, 6 weeks for each phase because it was a crossover study. So each group of students did both the placebo as well as the active arm. And what they found was there was a significant improvement in memory and significant improvement in markers of intelligence on examinations in those clients who were taking creatine. So creatine, this applies to both soy isoflavones and creatine. While they might not have the most impressive evidence for bones themselves, they have other benefits. And so these are things which you may wish to consider. Um, at the end, we'll be talking about diet, but we'll be doing a Q&A before that. But the final perspective here is that the most important thing for bones is mechanical loading resistance training. Number two would be plyometric multi-directional exercises like Zumba dancing, skipping rope, jumping jacks, active multi-directional sports like basketball, tennis, squash. I'm really happy today because I actually just booked three tennis courts for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Our children, my son is grade 11, daughter is grade 9. They have to study a lot, so we're not able to play on weekdays anymore because they have way too much study and too much homework to do. But we do play at least 1 hour on the weekend. So I booked 1 hour each day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm really happy about that. Our tennis club is finally open. So number one is mechanical loading. Number two is plyometric exercises. Number three is the structural nutrition like collagen and protein have better evidence. Number four is micronutrients like calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and and vitamin K, and then adjunct supplementation, soy isoflavone and creatine should be considered as well. Let's have some more questions before we go into diet, which is the final part of today's talk.
Doctor, I just got the creatine plant-based though. I
Good.
haven't taken yet, but tell me like I have protein powder, I have creatine. Do you mix both, or you have to take it separately? And do you have to take creatine daily? How do you consume this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So creatine is something which builds up very slowly in your system. So you do have to take 5 grams or one scoop every day, and it takes about 3 weeks
Okay.
to get into your system. Protein is more dependent upon your dietary pattern and whether you're doing exercise or not. So for myself, for example, today is my cardio day. Today I'll be doing three exercise snacks, 10 minutes each. I will be adding some high intensity work into it as well. And I'm not so worried about my protein intake. My protein intake will probably be more like 0.8 grams per kilogram today. I'll be focusing more on fiber, lots of fruits and vegetables, high volume, low calorie foods, and I'll probably be trying to aim for under 1,000 calories today. So a bit what's called a fasting mimicking diet. That's today because today is my cardio, fat burning, catabolic day. Now tomorrow is going to be my resistance training day. Tomorrow, I'll be going to the gym. So I'll be much more focused on protein intake. I'll be trying to get 1.6 grams per kilogram per day of protein. I'll probably have higher calorie intake. It might be equal to or even more than what my app is recommending as an average for me. And so I do lean into protein powders, more servings of 0% Greek yogurt, and even having a protein bar after my exercise on my high protein resistant training days. So protein intake is more dependent upon your daily intake and also more dependent upon what you're trying to achieve on that day. Is this a muscle building day for you? or is it a fat burning day for you? Because if you remember from my previous talks, I recommend something called calorie cycling, choosing 3 days in the week, which are your muscle building days, choose 3 days in the week, which are your fat burning days. And that'll give you optimal body recomposition, burning fat and gaining muscle at the same time. Creatine, on the other hand, is something you just have to take every day because it builds up very slowly. It
Oh,
takes about 3 weeks to build up. So creatine you take every day, regardless of whether you go to gym or not.
so do you use it in the milk, or how do you take hot
I,
water?
I mix it with my smoothie just with my protein powder. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Big scoop of protein powder and that little 5 gram scoop of um, creatine. You can add some fiber in there as well. If you want some fiber supplements, you can add fiber supplement in that same smoothie as well. But collagen I usually
Okay.
keep separate. I keep collagen in my hot drinks like coffee and tea. One thing I like to say about collagen is that the dose of
So you
collagen,
said you take protein, this creatine and collagen separately.
I take protein and creatine and fiber together, while collagen I usually keep separate.
That should be taken one scoop as well, collagen every day.
Collagen actually has two doses, 5 grams, which is one scoop, and 10 grams, which is two scoops. People who have active problems with arthritis and and joint disease may want to consider two scoops instead of one, because that's more effective for arthritic problems. While if you're just taking for prevention or for your skin or just for bones, maintaining bones, then one scoop of 5 grams is enough.
Okay. So can you tell me about this soy isoflavones? That's like you can use this as a supplement, you mean, like,
It's a
because you
capsule.
can
Yeah, it's a capsule.
uh-huh.
I'll show you on Amazon in a second. So it's a capsule. It contains soy isoflavone. You can also get a soy isoflavone by consuming soy products, edamame, tofu, uh,
But you
soybean,
need to
soy
take
milk.
every day.
Yeah, particularly for perimenopausal and postmenopausal women, it'll increase
Yeah,
the
yeah,
amount of
that's why I'm
estrogen.
asking.
And the other way you can get soy
Uh-huh.
isoflavone is by using soy protein powder as well. So I do ask my lady
Oh,
to mix up. One day you use plant protein, the other day you can use soy protein as well. And I'll show you the Amazon links in a second
okay.
for that as well. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the last part of the talk. And so I see some latecomers here. Ujjwal has just joined. So I'll just summarize that today we're talking about bone strength. The most important thing for bone strength is resistance training, pushing heavy weights. Number two is plyometric exercises. These are exercises where you have multiple directional changes. That is things like Zumba dancing, skipping rope, jumping jacks, playing sports like basketball, tennis, squash, etc. Number three is the more constitutional supplements which bones are actually made of, which includes things like collagen and protein powder. Number four is the micronutrients, which include calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and vitamin K. And number five is certain supplements which possibly have less evidence for bones, but they do have good evidence for other things. So, for example, soy isoflavones, which are plant estrogens, phytoestrogens, they've been shown to reduce risk of breast cancer. They've been shown to reverse insulin resistance and also improve bone density. So isoflavones have benefits beyond just the bones. And the same applies to creatine as well, because it doesn't have the best evidence for bones, but if you combine it with resistance training, you get better muscle build, more bone strength, and creatine because it generally just increases the amount of energy in your body. Creatine is beneficial for memory as well, and so there's even some studies being done to study it for other brain-related conditions. And so creatine is beneficial. Now you might think, well, why not just get creatine from the diet? You can technically, but for example, to get 5 grams of creatine, you will have to consume one or two whole steaks of beef. And that's where the problem arises. If we have two steaks of beef, you'll end up with a lot of calories, possibly over 1,000. You will end up with a lot of saturated fat, which is bad for your heart health. Also, red meat is probably carcinogenic as per the WHO. Processed red meat is confirmed carcinogenic, unprocessed red meat probably carcinogenic. And so why take all that risk? Instead, just take 5 grams of creatine in a supplement. And the one I recommend is in fact not even animal based, it's a plant-based creatine. And the collagen I recommend is a marine or fish-based collagen. So that is the whole point of supplements. Some people are like, oh, I'm only going to do this naturally. Sure, do it naturally, but show me one actor, one model, one sports person, one athlete who does it fully naturally. Possibly no one at all. Because if you're really trying to, in today's food environment and lifestyle environment, it's very difficult to do it naturally simply because you'll end up with too many calories and too much other stuff that you don't want. And that's the benefit of supplements that it's like a shortcut. To get 20 grams of protein through a powder, you only need to have 150 calories. If you get it through chicken breast, maybe about 200 calories. Fish, salmon, maybe 200, 250 calories. Beef, more like 500 calories. If you getting it through a hamburger, beef burger with the fries and the lard and everything on top, more than 1,000 calories. And so to get the same amount of protein, you're just getting it too many more calories by doing it naturally. And so supplements are like a shortcut. I'm not saying that everyone should be taking supplements, but realize supplements can give you shortcuts, which sometimes doing it purely naturally does not give you, which is why sports people, athletes, models, actors, actresses, they take supplements to achieve these kinds of results. And so we shouldn't be too shy of some of these supplements, is my opinion. Let's move to the last part of the talk. And of course, trying to do things naturally is good. And so how can we do the things naturally? Calcium. You can get good amounts of calcium through low-fat dairy, skim milk, low-fat yogurt, low-fat kefir, skimmed cottage cheese. You can also get it through plant-based sources like tofu. Plant-based milks are often supplemented with calcium. Green leafy greens like bok choy, kale, broccoli, collard greens. Marine sources of calcium include canned salmon with bones, sardine with bones. So essentially the bones will be dissolving within the can and you'll get more calcium. Magnesium you can get from plant-based sources like spinach, Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, almonds, black beans, chickpeas and lentils, whole grains like oats, brown rice and quinoa. Marine sources include salmon and halibut. Vitamin K you can get again from green leafy vegetables like kale, spinach, Swiss chard, collard greens, romaine lettuce. Also, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and cabbage. These are what we call cruciferous vegetables. Of course, vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin like vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E as well. And so if you pair it with a bit of some olives or nuts, and then or avocado, you will get better absorption of vitamin K. So isoflavones are phytoestrogens or plant-based estrogens. You can get this from tofu, tempeh, edamame, unsweetened soy milk. You can get it through a supplement form as well, of course. Protein, you can get it from marine sources like salmon, sardines, cod, tuna, trout, lean white meats like chicken, turkey, duck, uh, plant proteins like lentil, chickpeas, black beans, edamame, tofu, quinoa, low-fat dairy like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, skim milk. Creatine, you can get through herring, salmon, tuna, and cod. You can also get it through steak, but I didn't mention that simply because you'll end up with too much saturated fat. But I guess you could include lean cuts of beef once in a while in there as well as a good source of creatine. So, what would be the overall diet summary? Well, you want to have high vegetable intake, especially leafy greens, high plant proteins, fish 2 to 3 times a week if possible, low fat dairy, lean cuts of meats, cooked in a healthy manner, not deep fried. So, what would be a practical, healthy plate for healthy bones? Half your plate should be vegetables. This could be leafy greens. This could also be cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower. Quarter of your plate could be protein sources like fish, poultry, tofu, legumes. Another quarter could be whole grains or starchy vegetables like sweet potato. And then you can also add in some healthy fats like olives, nuts, and seeds. And for those of you who like tracking your intake, I have included some targets here for calcium, magnesium, vitamin K, soy, protein, and creatine, and some more supplements, some more blogs you may want to consider. For example, if you go into the menopause blog, I have included my favorite sources of all of these things. For example, for soy, this is soy isoflavone. It's $30, but you can see it's 4 months supply. So it's not that expensive. It's a super soy isoflavone, which just a capsule you take every day. Uh, and then there are a few other things you could consider. You could also consider soy protein powder uh, with your plant protein. So this will also give you some more soy and protein as well. And Organica is the one I use. You can get it from Costco as well. From Costco, the benefit is you get a bigger container from Costco. But this is the marine collagen from Organica. It does say tasteless there, so I guess hopefully they are correct in what they're saying. For my joints and skin, I do consume daily hyaluronic acid capsule, which also contains vitamin C and biotin. So it is useful for bones, cartilage, skin, hair, etc. Hyaluronic acid aids in collagen formation, and it also aids vitamin C also helps in collagen formation actually. Omega 3, multivitamins, vitamin D with vitamin K. So if you're 50 plus, I think you should take at least 1,000 of your D3 should be coming with the combination of vitamin K. The rest of it could come from multivitamin or a standalone vitamin D. This is creatine, which is Organica's creatine here. And I do have two more supplements here, which are combination supplements, just makes life a bit easier. So this is calcium with magnesium. And previously I showed you the vitamin D with vitamin K. And so I have a bunch of blogs that you could go through. This is the one for exercise. And I have included some of my favorite protein bars in here. So that's soy protein powder. This is my plant-based protein powder, which I really like because it also contains fiber, also contains probiotic and 44 different types of healthy foods, berries and uh, beetroot and all that kind of good stuff. I have a few bars in here as well. And I have divided exercise into, so this is a protein bar, for example, which also contains a lot of fiber. I've also divided exercise into various parts: upper body push, upper body pull, lower body, core. And so if you're looking for any ideas or motivation, you could always look at this. For example, if you don't like doing sit-ups, just you get this $19 ab roller, and it's quite a lot easier to do an ab roller than have to I won't promise you'll get these kinds of abs, but there you go. That's how you use the ab roller. And for example, today when I do my 30 minutes of cardio, which will be divided into three parts because I find cardio extremely boring. So I do it split up into three parts, which is my exercise snack. What I will be using for that, at least part of it, will be this mini elliptical, which is the I use it like a walker. I just get in on top of it and I just walk on it. So that's something you can use for cardio. The other thing I use is my exercise bike, and I might go for a little run outside as well. Of course, if I am able to play tennis, then I won't do any cardio on those days. Playing tennis for 1 hour is equivalent to a good session of cardio. And so if you need to revise anything, this is the blog to go on. Uh, Great. Oh, I think we went over time. So I guess I'm gonna, yeah, we went over time. So I guess no more questions, guys. My first patient's already arrived actually. So I'll see you all next week, everyone. Okay, I hope you found this
Yes,
useful.
doctor.
Take
Have a
care.
good day.
Same to you. Bye.
Thank you.